Hi, my name is John Gies, and I am a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
Yes, y'all. It's time once again for ResultsLeader.fm. Aren't you excited? I know I am. Today, I've got another amazing interview. Mr. John Gies, who is focused on helping small business owners thrive by creating new clients, new revenue, and new profits. He's a business development consultant, an all-around good guy, and he gives us some great insights in today's show. Let's jump in. John, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Are you ready to jump in?
I am.
Well, I know you did your homework, so this question's not going to come as a surprise. What book or books have you given most as a gift?
There are three. Number one is Leadership and Self-Deception. It's by the Arbinger Institute, and it talks about how we tend to put people in boxes based on their position. When we treat them as humans, we get a different result. Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, has been hugely instrumental. And then I also give people a copy of this one that I published on strategies to help people grow their business without spending more money on marketing or advertising.
Excellent. So I always love to hear how you came upon Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. How'd that book find its way into your life?
I was a young sales executive. I'd been hired to go to Dallas to become a new manager. I had to earn my way in. And I was selling a ton of stuff. I was number 10 out of 94 salespeople. I lost the promotion and I lost the raise because I didn't play well with other people. And it's a story. I threw a phone across the room. I told Janet what I thought of her, what I thought of the job she was doing, what I thought she should do with that job. And her boss in turn called my boss, and well, it rolls downhill. And I said, I have to change that behavior. So I took a course in human relations from Dale Carnegie and learned that the way I communicate with people actually has an impact. And it kind of informs who I am today, whether we're talking to ourselves, to our customers in the marketplace, or to our employees. The way we say what we say and what we say matters.
And I'm guessing then that would be the biggest takeaway from the book?
Yeah, I read it every couple of years, and this was written in 1938, and it's as relevant today. Using people's names, showing interest in people, we're actually thinking about them first. We're kind of rediscovering this now in a lot of conversations. I hear people say, like, I'm part of BNI and it's giver's gain. Well, that goes way back to Dale Carnegie. It goes way back before that. But yes, it's the way we communicate, and then I've just kind of drilled down on that through the years in terms of, I just did a presentation yesterday where I had the word no on the screen. I said, so how are you feeling? Anxious, disgruntled, frustrated? That's because your brain's been hijacked. Chemistry's gone on. And then how do you turn that around? All of these, when we understand that how we say what we say matters, how we behave, how we show up, our posture, all of that, now we get to make some choices. We're not just reacting in the world.
Boom. There it is. Choices. We have choices. I love that. So tell me a story, John, of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
I just told you that story. I mean, I was devastated. There are lots of things that go wrong from time to time, but that's kind of, if I think of my signature story, that's it. I was on the path to the corner office and I got derailed. And by the way, my boss said that I wanted the right thing. It was not what I wanted. It was how I said it. Now I work with clients. I've done it across Europe and North America. And how do we communicate with understanding the psychology, the structure, and the cadence of how we communicate and how we manage that communication to produce results?
What would you say is the most worthwhile investment you've ever made?
Gosh, so many things come to mind. One is in myself. I am a continuous learner. I won't tell you how long ago I got out of college, but I still read 4 to 5, 6 books a month because I love reading. The investment in my marriage. Nancy and I in June will celebrate 30 years of marriage. She's moved through 6 cities with me. She's my accountability partner when I'm going astray. So I would say those two are probably the 2 biggest investments I've made.
Wow, man, 30 years. That's amazing. And so rare these days. I love hearing that. So let's think back, John, over the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
The idea that if it doesn't violate the physical laws of the universe, we can do anything we want to do. And I got this that's a quote from Tom Bilyeu, but I'm probably not ever going to be a ballerina or NBA basketball player at this point in my life. But given those constraints, building a business, building relationships, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, those are all things I can do given the will, the discipline, the strategy, and the steps to get there. We can do almost anything we want to do.
How'd you figure that out? I mean, was it just listening to Tom Bilyeu, or is this something that you've been working on your whole life?
I think it's come and gone. It's what I've observed in myself as I get into periods of peak flow where life is unfolding and I'm growing and I'm able to achieve all sorts of things. And then there are periods where it's like, well, what happened? And typically what happened was I let go of a discipline or I let go of a practice like my morning routine. And then it's rebuilding that back up. But yeah, at one time, it was sometime in the 1980s, I was given the opportunity to present to a group of building contractors. And my boss's boss told me that sucked. I'm like, oh my God, but I had so much fun. So years later, I joined Toastmasters and became a distinguished Toastmaster, learned how to speak in public, have gone on to become a professional speaker within the NSA. And now it's, I like Zoom. It saved a lot of times, but being in front of an audience and feeling what happens with an audience is an awesome experience. And that's something that I created through practice, through discipline, through feedback, and continued practice. And there were plateaus. Again, I keep referring to books. George Leonard was an author for Esquire magazine years ago. And in his 50s, I think he took up the practice of Aikido. He talks about the plateau. We get up to a place in our training or in our growth where all of a sudden we're just kind of hanging out there. It doesn't feel like we're growing, we're not failing, but we're just there. And when we're there, we just have to continue the practice, continue to show up, continue to do the work. And all of a sudden, one day, you're at the next level. And I think that's true for us in our business, in our careers. We get to a point where we're not on that hockey stick trajectory that everybody projects. We're at that plateau. And we're tempted to give up. And if we can stay and practice, it will unfold. I think, so I grew up making cold calls. And I could cold call 3 days in a row and get nothing. Wow. Any of you that have done this, this sucks. But then on day 4, I'll get 5 appointments. So sometimes you just have to practice and do the work.
So there's a couple things I want to dig into a little bit more there. Number one, you talked about peak flow. Would you define that for us?
Well, others have done it better. There's, the book Flow. There's Stephen Kotler and Jimmy Wheel with their Flow Institute, but it's kind of that place where time disappears. So for me, like for most people, getting on the stage and talking to people is a terrifying experience. Studies say people would rather be burned alive. Keep your matches. I'd rather do the stage. But you never know what's going to happen. You're in this place where you know your material. You've practiced it, you've done it, but something can go wrong. And so there's a tension. There's a little bit of stress, kind of the eustress. But when you move into that, it's like time disappears. You're in it. You almost have this little observer behind you going, yeah, you got this. Or, right, this part of the room needs a little bit of attention. You're kind of aware at a different level. In the martial arts, they call it mushin, a state of no mind. You're present, you're working, but you're not thinking through what comes next. It's flowing through you.
Beautiful. And the other thing that I always find interesting is you said that sometimes you might fall out of it. What does your ideal morning routine look like?
I get up around 4:30, sometimes 5. I'm trying to stay up a little bit later because of daylight savings time now. So I get up just a little bit later. And then I sit for 20 minutes or so, either listen to or read something inspirational. I spend a little bit of time connecting with my higher self. Then it's a cold shower, shave, and to the desk.
Boom. Love it, man. All right. So what are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
You've got to buy Facebook ads. You've got to buy Instagram ads. You've got to buy all sorts of advertising, digital marketing, SEO, blah, blah, blah. Stop. Before you do any of that, really understand who your customer is. And then what problem do you solve for them? So if you're a house painter, you might say to yourself, I solve the problem of painting houses. Well, no, they've already decided they want to paint their house. The problem you solve is we won't leave a mess when we're behind. If you're trying to sell the house, we'll be done on time. We're not going to run away with your deposit. We guarantee our work. There's all sorts of ways to make that promise. I mean, Domino's is $1 billion pizza company in a world of 10,000 pizza companies, all because they made a unique promise. So understand your customer, understand your promise, and then where do they hang out? Are they really on Facebook? Are they really on Instagram? I live in a community that is transitioning. The original homeowners are at the point where they're leaving and there's a row of dumpsters in all the driveways. Their newsletter, I promise you, all those original homeowners are reading. And if I'm a contractor, a painter, a roofer, a remodeler, I want to be in that newsletter. And it's $50 a month.
Wow.
I don't have to get all complicated. Sorry, I feel like I was preaching there.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a public service announcement. We're going to get right back into this show, but I wanted to ask you a question. If you have been listening to the show for any amount of time and you've picked up even one single tip, then I need your help. Get the word out. Tell people about resultsleader.fm. Share it on social media. Share it on your email. Share it anywhere. Hashtag resultsleaderfm. Now let's jump back into the interview. So let's get into what the show is really about. Why do results matter, John?
Well, you don't have a choice. Everything we do delivers a result. And our life is the result of our results. I'm reminded of Sister Mary. So back in the day, Sister Mary ran a health system here in Colorado. And patients used to say, well, why don't you give us the healthcare for free? I mean, you're a charitable organization. And Sister Mary had the best answer ever. If I don't have any money, I can't serve the mission. So as a business owner, as a person, if we're not earning income, if we're not driving revenue, we can't serve our higher mission. And as I said, results happen. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, are those results what we intended? Are they conscious or are we unconscious? I've taught some emotional awareness recently to some folks, and they're honestly surprised at the results because they're reacting versus, understanding what's happening for everybody else in the room.
That's so funny. I was listening to Brian Tracy this morning, and he said something like, the best way to help the poor is not to join them. Reminds me of what you just said. Like, okay, that makes perfect sense when you put it that way. So in the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
Being able to take a pause and step back and helping them take a pause and step back. It's interesting. One of the most frequent things I say to a client is, did you hear what you just said? We'll be talking about an issue, talking about something, and they'll rattle off the obstacle or their solution, but they won't hear it because they're so in the groove of trying to get stuff done, or they're so immersed in their business, fighting fires and, taking orders and ordering parts and all that they're not stepping back to say, how can I build a system so that someone else can do this and I can step up to that next level of leadership or, take more vacation time. So being able to pause and kind of take a step back has probably been, and as a doer versus a beer, that was a big step for me. I even wrote 2 blogs on the paradox of do because people say, well, you got to be the success. Well, no, you got to do the success. But they kind of go together. Who we are impacts what we deliver, and what we deliver and the feedback from that, the results from that, inform who we become.
How about a couple practical tips? Because I'm with you, and I think it comes from E-Myth, working on the business versus working in the business. Can you give us a couple practical tips on how you can get that pause, get that room?
Yeah. So I recommend to all my clients that they schedule 1 hour every week to just look to the upcoming week and what do you want to get done? Block your time. And I get it. Your clients are coming in, your cars are coming in, your clients are calling you. All of that's good. But you can still block time, and that client will wait for you to return the phone call. Now, if they drive up, you need to have someone to take care of that. But like for me, it's Sunday morning at 9:00. I have an hour with myself because that's the time I set back and say, what steps do I want to take in this next week? What didn't I get done in this past week? Another tip is, the annual plan. The step back. What did I learn this year? What did I win? Where did I lose? What lessons can I take from that? And then I have my guidelines posted I point over here like it's on the wall. It's actually in my Outlook, so I can go look at it on occasion and kind of, all right, am I on track to reach my goals? And am I living according to my guidelines? And quite frankly, for some of my clients, it's the time they spend with me. I have one client that says, I would never do this except for the hour that you sit in front of me. And so if that's the case, find somebody to help you be accountable. Find somebody to help you ask questions. I belong to an accountability group. We get together every Wednesday morning, and we're kind of walking through our stuff every week.
What area of your business would you like better results?
I'd like more business. I'm like my clients. I'd like more business, but I'm at the point where I want to get to the point where I can bring more people on to leverage the results. And so I have something that can actually be sold versus just a practice. And if I'm honest, I want to be better at valuing myself in my own time. I'm in recovery as a people pleaser. And so I have been willing to, notice how I caught myself there with that thought?
Yeah.
I've been willing to give up my work or my value to please people. And that's something that I'm continuing to work on.
What are you doing to improve upon that?
I'm listening to the voice. I'm listening to I'm trying to be if you had told me when I was that young guy throwing the telephone that being aware of my emotional state and being aware of my being was important, I would have said hooey. The more experience I get, the more I realize that awareness is important. So just really becoming aware of how I feel. And if I have that little squirm in my tummy, or if I feel the puppy dog, like, I'm going to please somebody, that's a chance for me to step back and say, let me think about that. I'll get back to you, or an outright no.
What results are you most proud of, John?
How long do you have? I mean, I can look back through a whole host of things, but in the work that I'm doing now, what really excites me is when a client says, I took my first vacation in 4 years, or I'm starting to pay myself a salary, or I've hired the office manager, where they've gone from, I'm doing all of this, I'm missing recitals, I'm pulling my hair out, to things are starting to settle in. I'm seeing a light there. I can do this.
Any parting thoughts you want to share with the results leaders who are listening to us right now?
Yeah, it's something we talked about earlier. Barring the laws of the universe, you can do anything you want to do. It's going to take practice. It's going to take discipline, and you're going to have to do the work. But if you want it, it can be yours.
I guess you got to know what you want, huh?
Well, and frankly, that's one of those things, right? It's, I learned goal setting in college, and some goals came to me and some goals didn't. And when I tested for my black belt, it was funny. I'd set out a 5-year plan, and 5 years and 2 months later, I accomplished almost everything on that plan. And it's something I'd written just on a whim, threw it in the drawer, but I'd moved to Denver. I was making a certain amount of money. I was a marketing manager, and I earned my black belt. I said, I'm going to do that again. And it didn't happen. So we've got to be careful as we're trying to think about what we want, to be really clean with what it is that we want versus mom, dad, the boss, our wife, or our spouse. And that's requires a little bit of quiet time. It requires a little bit of being able to feel. Here I am with that do thing, really understanding, what is it that I'm feeling? Where is that going to lead me?
So I know folks listening are going to want more from you, John. Where can they go?
LinkedIn, https://RAS-squared, or at johngies.com.
Boom. And we will have links to everything in the show notes as well. We were talking with John Gies today. Thank you, results leaders, for tuning in, and we will be back in your earbuds next time. That is a wrap for another edition of resultsleader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to resultsleader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.